So this is a Mandlbot. And first I'd like to give a shout out to Jennifer Holmes. She had, in one of my videos when I was discussing the quantum particle and the idea of as above so below, and the Fibonacci ratio, she said to me, "Oh, what you're talking about is a Mandlbot," and I don't think I'd ever heard of it before, so I had to look it up, and I read some scientific explanations of all of this, and for the life of me, it was all mathematics. I mean, I couldn't understand any of what they had written about, right? And I have a degree in science and nursing, right? So it's like, but that kind of like physics and mathematics is way beyond me. But what I did understand was a Mandlbot is an expression, a pattern in nature, right? That can go from the largest thing in the universe all the way down to the smallest, like the quantum particle. So within this picture, okay, this is the full size view of what this what this fractal pattern looks like, right? But if you were to zoom in all the way down onto every one of these little dots and you could see it, that's what this is, right? Which is just, to me, incredible that nature within itself has a set of ratios and numbers that controls all of reality, from the quantum particle to the largest objects in our universe, right? Which, like, think about like a galaxy, a planet, then down to our size, right? And then you get to the microscopic, to the atomic, right? Like, right? So here's an example of what I'm talking about, right? This is called the Bohr model, right? Or the solar model of atoms, right? And it's like, this is an atom, right? You have the proton, the neutron, and the electron. And they mimic the planets, right? So at the larger scale, we have, we have these incredibly large bodies, right, that are moving around us in the heavens, right? And yet they move in the same manner that like an atom does, right? They have the same patterns, the same kind of shape, they mimic each other, right? And so if you think about it, it's like the way nature, the way God set the universe was, there are these fractal patterns that go up and down in both directions. And that's what the Mandlbot is, right? But I never realized that the scientists had come up with a name with it, right? And now these scientists, of course, can't connect the scientific part with the spiritual part or the occulted part, right? Because all they do is think with intellect, right? Because they are intellectuals, right? And when you're an intellectual, you're cutting off an entire aspect of your makeup, right? Because we have also intuition, right? And what is intuition? It's like you're driving through the parking lot and something tells you in your mind, hey, slow down. And right when you slow down, a car backs out or rips in front of you, and had you not stopped, you would have plowed right into them, right? So like, that's intuition, right? And it's, if you're a kind of person that's very intellectual, part of the thing that you need to do is maybe why your life is out of control is because you're not accessing your subconscious, your intuition, right? And hopefully by seeing this video and seeing that science shows us that the occult, that these great writers of the occult, right? People who wrote books like this, the Grimoire Varium, the Picatrix, one of the great occult manuals of all time, right? Like, these people understood that, that there were particles, quantum particles. They just didn't know how to say it in their time period, right? And if you study this stuff, if you read it, Like what I often wonder is like the scientists who study this kind of stuff, if they would just like read some of these books, right? If they just read some of these books, like where would these books lead them to, right? What kind of connections would they make that could lead these scientists to greater discoveries, right? But they refuse to do that. I mean, and of course that's a blanket statement. There's probably some out there who do understand what I'm saying, but for the most part, science and the spiritual nature and our understanding of the occult has been cut and separated from each other, right? There was a time when scientists, like all the great scientists you ever heard prior to the 1900s, they were all occultists. You know, Galileo, Newton, and you know the list is super long, but like they all were into astrology, astronomy, divination with tarot cards. They read these books, the Picatrix. They read this kind of stuff, right? And why did they do that? It's because over tens of thousands of years, we have gained knowledge through intuition, right? By using our mind to commune with nature, the goddess, with God. And then we receive information, right, back. And we receive that through, you know, what I believe is called the collective unconscious, Carl Jung, right? You could call it the collective unconscious, you could call it the Holy Spirit, you could call it the quantum particle, right? They're all the same thing. But the quantum particle, like people like Elon Musk believe the quantum particle is a living entity that has its own consciousness, right? And you can look this stuff up. Like all of these scientists who are like the smartest people in the world about this stuff, right? They all have concluded that the quantum particle is a living entity. Like think about that, because all of nature springs from it, right? In one of my videos from about a month ago, I was talking about how this is the first picture ever taken of a quantum particle, right? And what does it look like? It's the yin yang. And when you read through this article, that's, you know, there's a on physics.org, there's an article about it, but then you can go read the research report, right? And it's about 50 pages long, and I read through it, and they talk about how they have a special camera that takes all of these pictures, right? And at the very end of the article, you know, the research paper, they say, oh, and you know, just by happenstance, it looks like the yin yang, right? But this is another example of a Mandlbot, right? Like this expresses, right, in so many waves. We've got the sine wave, right? We've got the figure 8, which is infinity. Okay, and you could just go on and on about what this means, right, within our reality. But there's so much we don't even understand about it, right? It's just like what we understand, we're barely beginning to scratch the surface of this kind of stuff. And it's taken us a very long time for scientists to start to break through their own dogma, right? Because it's like they have their own religion with this stuff. Like it's like they can't believe in any manner that God and science are one. And that's what I believe. Being a scientist myself and historian, I believe like this is all, you know, it's designed scientifically, right? Like when you read these books, these are scientists. They even say in their book we're conducting science experiments, right? These were the smartest people of their day that wrote these books, these occulted manuals. They weren't like these ignorant people who, you know, were just straight out tinfoil hat wearers, right? These kind of people would have been like the Elon Musks of today, right? The Bill Gates. They would have been the leaders of industry. They would have been inventing like new sciences and technology. And instead, these people were like often put to death, jailed, essayed, financially ruined, you know, spent the last years that they're homeless, executed, burned at the stake. I mean, like, you hear the stories of what these people went through, and it's crazy. But I've got more coming on this subject. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.